This is Bane's. This is classic Bane's.
Bane's Unleashed. Yeah, classic Bane's. That's right.
Yeah. Hello and welcome to the QUACKCAST. This is QUACKCAST number 503. I'm Ozone Ocean, and with me is Baines. Hello.
Hello.
Pitt and Tance can't be with us because tragically they're dismembered inside Baines's fridge. That happened. We came home after a late night of being superheroes, and they were fridged. And that's how.
Being the maid.
Yeah. That's how our character arc has begun. So that's made us enraged.
That's what we Gen Xers we find that humorous.
Of course, that's a reference to, I think, Green Lantern and the famous fridging of his ex.
Right, yeah.
And how that has become a touchstone now, that has become a thing we look back on, we think, love interests being used, the death of love interests being used as a way to build character and tension and drama is quite cheap and awful, especially how it's always violence against women. So yeah, but that relates to our subject. We're talking about changing attitudes and the way things have mutated over the time, because Baines and I are Gen Xers. These days we have millennials, and millennials are getting on. Now we have Gen Y. So a lot of things have changed.
For God's sake.
Oh, Gen Z. You're right. Not Gen Y. Gen Z. That's it. Gen Y was millennials, and then they changed. So.
Oh, I was going to say, did they skip Generation Y? I thought I'd heard of it, but they're millennials.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Well, yeah, they were.
Doesn't make sense.
Gen Y for a long time, but yeah, then these bloody magazines decided to say, make a big thing of this millennial term. That's
right. And if you could leave the word problematic in your comments under this, we'd appreciate it. I like to see that word, and I like to count the number of times someone says that word.
Yes, exactly. But we've got to bring up the our featured comic. Well, it's not really a featured comic. This week, it is the Drunkduck Awards. So I got to talk about that. That's me. I beat Quai to the Drunkduck Awards.
Hey, you can't beat ladies up.
Oh, God.
You have to watch your step on this episode, sir.
Oh,
Zero
my
female
God.
Here today. This is sickening to me.
Yeah. This is interesting.
And now I feel guilty for mocking people. This is going to be a complex podcast episode.
Yeah.
Especially if I try to be funny.
Oh, yeah. There's guilt all the way around. This is the Catholic cast. So, I'm going to take it away with the Drunkduck Awards 2020. Hello, I'm Ozone Ocean, and the featured comic that I did for the week was the 2020 Drunkduck Awards. These are the Drunkduck yearly awards, annual awards, I would say. They go most years, so we've done them fairly consistently for a long time. And they're a huge tradition on Drunkduck, a massive community effort by everybody. Well, not everybody, just the great people who manage it, and we thank them all for doing that. They do a marvelous job. So, what are the awards? Well, people submit their comics for judging in various categories like Best Comic and Best Character, or Best Comedy, or Best New Starter. And then we have I don't know, maybe they don't submit it. Maybe they get them nominated for those categories by other people. And when they're nominated, then the judges will look at them and see whether they excel in those categories. And then they will, give them the awards if the judges feel that they are the ones that represent the best comic character or the best comedy or whatever. So it's a fairly intensive, really well managed piece of work, and Nasia has been sort of in charge of that for a long time, and she has many enthusiastic people helping along. And it's not just awards, the people involved, they do these great presentation pages and for your consideration pages, sort of just laying out all the comics that they want to be, nominated or then judged by the judges. All this, like, encouraging people through the artwork. It's just fantastic. It's like people campaign by drawing up these comic pages for the characters and saying, yes, you should vote for me or you should nominate me. It's really cool, and it becomes like a very participatory experience. You can just look at it as a viewer. You don't have to actually be part of the awards itself. You can just sort of go through the awards comic, which is made from all this artwork, and just view it and see how it went, in a linear fashion, and see who won, and the lead up to that based on the for your consideration pages and nomination pages and all that. So it's pretty enormous community project with so many different people involved. I know they have a special separate forum, and judges are assigned certain categories that they will only judge, and they'll have to look over them, and there's like a number of judges for each category, so it's not just one judge. It's a very fair kind of operation. People will really sort of discuss these things and see whether things really do fit in categories and what should get the award. So I've been part of it like once or twice, not many times because it's just too much work for me. I do too much other work on the site to sort of really commit to it. But I'm so happy that these fantastic people have committed to it. And, like Tant Serene, Baines, many, many others. These are, I don't mention them to point them out as like favorites. It's just that, we are always doing our QUACKCAST together, so we know each other. So I'm, have a bit of a knowledge of what they're doing, but I don't know all the other people that are working. I think maybe Vicky from Used Books, so many people. And of course, Nasia, who has been managing it for many years. And now she has her second child. She's been managing it, even when she was pregnant with the first child and then with the second child. And of course, before that, when she didn't have any kids at all. So that's an amazing effort to still be doing that when she's, become a mother, and when she got married and all this kind of stuff. And she's still maintaining this great tradition for the website. So we thank all those people for doing it, and they are doing a brilliant job on the awards. So anyway, enough of me blabbering on. I've got to get back to the QUACKCAST. So please check out the 2020 Drunkduck Awards. And that was the featured music, featured comic actually, the Drunkduck Awards 2020. Alrighty, 2020 has given us 2020 vision of how bad this year has been. Did you hear?
That's true, man. Anyway, everyone knows 2020 is insane.
Sean Connery just died.
Go ahead. I heard, man. Yeah. Oh my lord.
R.I.P. Sean.
That was surprise. Yeah, that was really sad.
Wasn't Sean Bean that died? It was Sean Connery.
That's right. Well, you would have imagined he'd be first. He was 90.
Yes,
which was amazing in itself. That guy, even though he's been retired for quite a while, he seemed kind of ageless.
Yeah.
Anyway, always seemed like an elder guy.
Full of energy.
Yes. Absolutely.
I am shocked. Randy, the amazing Randy died as well. This amazing skeptic.
Oh, did he just pass? He just died?
Yeah, just the other day. I think it was like.
Oh damn it! I just learned my psychic powers too. I would have got that million.
Damn it! You'll have to apply to the JREF.
Yeah, that's sad. I think I thought he was already dead. He was kind of retired, right? I hadn't heard anything from him.
Yeah, he was a little gnome. He was living with his poor old little gnome. He was living with his husband actually, because he came out just when he was 80 actually.
That's right.
Yeah, interesting guy.
Incredible. 80 years old. Yeah.
Yeah, so he was incredible guy. Stage magician, did all
Yes.
the Alice Cooper stage shows and all sorts of things.
How could I not have known that? I didn't even know that. I'm
Well,
an Alice Cooper freak. I can't believe I didn't know that. That's really cool.
yeah, worldwide skeptic, used to go around the world debunking Uri Geller and all sorts of things, and in every
Yes.
continent on the planet. Amazing guy.
He blindsided Uri Geller in a classic. Was it Johnny Carson?
Yeah.
Uri Geller came out and it was bending spoon or gonna bend spoons. And stuff like that.
Gave him real
Carson brings out
spoons.
James Randy, and Uri Geller gets really afraid.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. Yeah. Well, the end of an era. So hopefully we'll have some good people to carry on.
man.
We'll have
Yeah.
new Shawns, new Connerys, and new Amazing Randys. We'll have people who can carry that legacy. And that's interesting.
R.I.P. man. Two amazing people.
Sean Connery was a very old-fashioned guy with old attitudes, but I'll talk about the featured music and then we'll go into the podcast. So, our featured music this week is Adulting Amy, which is a really cool little comic by Einstein, I think. Ickstein.
Oh, okay.
So, Adulting Amy, a light, almost techno start that collapses in a heavy, thunderous, thumping jazz number full of energy and fury. It blasts along like a drum kit falling down the stairs with an upright piano in tow. All the while, the unifying refrain keeps the disparate elements together. The way Gum Wallace described it to me was that it starts off innocent and it grows up very quickly. So we have it becoming adult. The music grows as the comic does. So take it away, Gum Wallace, with
Nice.
Adulting Amy. And that was the music Adulting Amy by Ickstein, and it's rated, I think it's rated E. I'm not sure what it's rated. Damn it. Well, I've got to find out what Adulting Amy
I think
is rated.
the rating, it probably keeps changing as Amy gets more and more mature.
That would be a good idea. It's teen at the moment.
Like Harry Potter.
Oh. Harry Potter? Oh, that's something to bring up.
Harry Potter.
Oh.
Jiminy, I got the wrong thing.
Yes, Dick Van Dyke. So, we're talking about like changing attitudes to things and keeping up with modern attitudes because things have changed a lot in like the last few years. They've changed a lot for when, like Baines and I, we're Gen Xers, and the attitudes of millennials and Gen Zs are very different for what we grew up with. You know, attitudes are like, oh my god, like massively different. And fitting into that is what's that woman who does the Harry Potter stuff? Oh my god,
Hermione Granger. No, J.K. Rowling.
Rowling, that's it. J.K. Rowling. Okay, so J.K. Rowling has fallen afoul.
She's always
of this.
ticking off everybody. Doesn't she kind of go back and forth?
Well,
I've
okay.
seen a bit of.
So she started out. I mean, they call her a TERF now, but she started out doing all this Harry Potter stuff, being like a golden child, like the poster child of someone who's progressive in that, you know, this is a woman who's a single mother, she's struggling, she creates this story that becomes, you know, super popular, sells it, becomes movies and all this kind of stuff, and creates this massive
she's
series.
My first, sorry, I'll cut you off. The first image I had of her, and I haven't read the books, I haven't seen most of the movies, but she was like the poster child for like success and determination. And like making a big success, you know, because she was, like you said, single mother, broke, submitted her book to tens of places to try to get it to try to sell the initial book. But anyway, go ahead.
And it was a bigger success.
Was to me first, yeah.
Exactly, to me too. And it was a bigger success because she was a single mother and because she was a woman, you know, and it's a great progressive step forward. And she supports, you know, like women's rights, and she's a feminist and all this kind of stuff. It's good. And the problem is that the attitudes just don't stop there. So her like the ideas and thoughts she's grown up with and the attitudes to things are from her. She's probably a Gen Xer, like an older Gen Xer, I think. She could be a boomer. I don't think so. So she's fallen afoul of the issue of trans rights and trans women, trans people. Baines, you still there? Oh, right, yeah, sorry.
Yes.
Anyway, so so the trans stuff. And so she says, like, a woman is a woman, a man is a man, a woman has a vagina, a man has a penis, all this kind of stuff. You know, these are older attitudes. You know, you and I grew up with that kind of thing. Like, this was normal back when we were growing up. Like those kind of attitudes. But that's not normal anymore. Like, that is, things have changed, and she can't accept that and move on. And now that has harmed her massively because she has, like, refused to move with the times and grow with how things are going. And this is what can happen to us Gen Xers and baby boomers or whatever, and even some millennials who are, you know, the older millennials, can get caught up in this because social attitudes to things have changed so much. It's often hard to stay abreast of that, and that's what has happened to J.K. Rowling.
You can't say that.
Oh, abreast. Oh, goodness me, a chest of that.
That's problematic.
Yeah, so poor old J.K. Rowling and
problematic counter 1.
The name for her is a TERF, which means I don't know, something about radical feminist, but that's the last part of it. The first part I don't know.
Okay.
Like,
it doesn't sound like it's a good thing. I've never heard that expression before.
TERF. Yeah.
I brought that up, and I Googled that just now, turf, and the first thing that came up was like the lawnmower shop in my neighborhood.
What does TERF stand for? Who cares? She's the TERF anyway.
I need the Urban Dictionary, I think. Yeah, so Urban Dictionary.
Yeah. That's what poor old JK is.
It's a little blue being, 3 apples high. And they live in... Oh, wait. Oh, my God.
Gargamel!
Speaking of Gen X, people are like, what are you talking about? I'm talking about Alvin and the Chipmunks. Silly geese. Okay.
Trans-exclusionary.
Their own neighborhood.
Trans-exclusionary radical feminist. So there we are. So she's a radical feminist, but she excludes trans people from it. There we are. Jeez, we're old. This is embarrassing. Type it into the Google.
I'm glad I didn't say the Google. Just a wee bit too young for that.
Quickly get the dictionaries.
To turf is to send along to someone else. I'm going to turf that errand to Eric.
Oh, jeez.
People are like, "Oh my god, why am I still listening to this?" Okay, so what is it? You uninclude trans people.
Yeah.
Or you dismiss them. You turf them.
Yeah. Well, it all fits symbolically. Yeah. Well, that's okay. So back to the frickin' belabored point here.
Sorry.
No, don't apologize. It's all good.
Go.
Sorry.
Sorry. Ocean, I'm sorry.
I'll kill you again, Sean. So this is J.K. Rowling falling afoul of stuff because she refuses to update herself and change. And as we can all, fall afoul of this. So look, okay, when you and I grew up, basically, there were a lot of different attitudes that are different now to what they were then. So if someone was homosexual or whatever, this was seen as a very bad thing, and we couldn't have our own selves being seen as that back then. I'm assuming it's the same in your part of Canada as it was here. There's that.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I mean, it was a regular insult.
Yeah.
To call someone.
Yeah, it's gay panic, basically. There was that. There was to call someone a girl. That was another kind of thing, that indicated someone who was less than, or
right.
Someone who was being at all effeminate. Effeminacy was seen as being a sign of weakness. Still is with in some parts of the community, but that's changed. Attitudes to that have altered. This is the world in which we grew up in, and all that stuff has changed. Polyamory is a thing now that was not a thing back when we grew up. That is where people will be have expanded relationships. And this is a normal thing. We have more blended families and things like that now that were not seen as being such a common thing back then. And it's important.
You mean race? You talking about racially?
Yeah, racially. Also, sexually, you have relationships with people that, men, women, even like back in the 90s or whatever, we still had this strict idea that, okay, we have gay people and we have straight people and maybe bisexual people. Whereas these days we have people who are pansexual, and that's a normal thing.
Yes.
That is,
they just love the flute. They love goats.
Oh no.
And they love demigods or whatever that little guy is.
Exactly.
But I have the description for this episode that you can write.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what the title will be, but the description could be like an old man tries to explain modern culture to an even older man.
Let me just write that down. An old.
It'll be the shortest QUACKCAST description.
Oh jeez. That is exactly true. That's what's happening in this QUACKCAST.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm catching up on some of this stuff.
And our audience already understands all these things.
They're like, exactly.
They're going.
They're learning nothing. They're like, yes. Like
what?
Watching my grandmother try to work a video camera.
Exactly. Going. What the hell are you even doing? This is. We know this stuff. You idiots.
Yes.
All right, well, let's give some more concrete examples rather than blather around and try and give people the descriptions of what they already know. Okay, so a lot of our work is based on our influences from when we're growing up. Basically movies, comics, cartoons, TV series, comedies, sitcoms, all this kind of stuff. Attitudes in those kind of things also reflected these older cultural ideas that do not fly today. Let's give some examples of this. Okay, like RoboCop. Fantastic movie, the excellent satire of the world. Paul Verhoeven, I think that's his name. It's interesting Dutch director. Created pretty funky, fun, huge blockbuster films. RoboCop's a great example.
Phenomenal, like satirical, like genre movies, but also with a lot of commentary on society. I mean, Starship Troopers, I think it's called.
Showgirls.
Showgirls, yeah, I haven't seen that, but that was a famous disaster of a movie, I guess, or like a
Flesh and Blood
when it came up
with Rutger Hauer.
Okay,
yeah,
seen it.
That's a good film, but very problematic.
Ding.
Yeah, another mention of the term. Okay, so Flesh and Blood. Very heavy rape scene in that particular film. It's very interesting kind of film about science in the medieval world or Renaissance world and warfare, all this kind of stuff. It's very, very fun, very interesting film, but a very heavy rape scene in that film, which if you were to do that today, you'd have to really be able to justify that. Because depicting sexual violence, whereas back then that was often used as just a story element, now we take that a lot more seriously when we're including that in any fictional work. You really have to be aware.
Maybe I'm not 100% sure of that. I mean that's a pretty serious. I mean even back in the day, I would say that's a pretty serious thing. I don't know if it was ever considered a light thing or like an unimportant thing.
Oh, it was. There's like the butt of jokes in a lot of older things. Like people would just commonly just sort of dismiss it. Use it as part of humor. It wasn't like dismissed or treated as unimportant in Flesh and Blood. But the fact that it's used at all is problematic. That's what I'm saying. Ding!
I wonder if... I don't know, because there's some dark stuff that... I'm trying to think of a rape scene in a modern movie. I mean, there's awful stuff in modern movies sometimes.
Yeah, there is. Don't go there. But it's treated... It's treated with more gravity. Like, you're not just using it to say, oh yeah, this character has suffered and this is how she suffered because she's a woman and women suffer in this way. And, yep. Whereas, in a more modern film, Okay, so the thing with sexual violence in this older kind of stuff, it's just, the character is suffering this. The character is suffering that. And we can make the character suffer that because the audience, understands that female characters should have this as like an expected threat. Whereas, okay, in modern cinema, when we do this kind of thing, we understand that, okay, so like sexual violence is not just something that happens to characters. This happens to real people. And this is a serious thing. And we consider our audience when we show sexual violence because we realize depicting this actually can affect the audience. Looking at like the female audience is like a 50% or 51% of the audience who watches, who consumes the stories. And to treat something that can happen to them as just something that happens to characters isn't appropriate. So that means, that doesn't mean you can't have sexual violence, but it means you have to, think a lot more before you include it, Because it's a very serious thing. That's what I'm saying.
Right. I guess, I don't know. I guess I agree with some of that. And I can't remember the last time I saw a rape scene and really enjoyed it. No, I can't remember the last time I saw a rape scene at all. I do think that the reaction to it is different. The Not that it was ever considered a good thing. You know, but there, of course, there were rape on the schoolyard. There were rape jokes. There were dead baby jokes. Kids probably still tell awful, dark jokes, you know? That's part of, that's just part of things.
Well, I'm not saying you
I guess...
Yeah, go on.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm not saying you can't... Oh, God.
Even with only two people, it's difficult. Yeah. But yes, no, go ahead.
All right. Well, I'm not saying that, okay, all jokes about these things are bad, just because, we have to have some kind of thought police or whatever. But I'm saying depictions of this stuff have to be taken with, or have to include a lot more seriousness in your thinking about them. Oh, God, I'm saying this very badly, but you consider your audience before including stuff in your work that might affect them. Okay, so racial kind of stuff. Like, back in the day, we could be a bit more flippant about that because society was a bit more like patriarchal, a bit more like white dominant. Okay? So we treated a lot of racial stuff more flippantly. Now, these days, we're basically considering our audience, and we're not just saying, okay, like, we're white dudes making this bit of media and we're doing it for a predominantly white audience. We're not thinking that way anymore. We're thinking, sure, we might still be white dudes making this thing, but we're making it for everybody. And we don't want to alienate our audience or treat anyone as if they're second-class citizens. Everybody should be able to enjoy this to the same level. So that means we can't be flippant about that. And it's the same with sexual issues as well. We can't just include stuff.
This might be light. This might be valid, like fodder for amping up the tension in a thriller or a drama or whatever. But thinking more in terms of this is not this maybe is severe for the kind of entertainment we're trying to make. I guess I understand. I mean, I don't guess. I do understand that. I guess there's a side of things that's I'm not specifically talking about. Well, I guess we're talking about rape. So, well, I just don't know that people are always taking it more seriously, necessarily, as opposed to walking on eggshells.
Yeah, I don't
trying to.
Oh, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that basically is it.
Well, I don't think we should be walking
I'm not making an argument, I'm just raising the question.
Yeah. I don't think we should be walking on eggshells, but I think we should realize the seriousness of that kind of situation.
Sure.
Oh, damn it. I was going to move on to some other aspect of it, but I've lost the train. So, yeah, we just got to realize that the world's changed in some respects. And okay, yeah, fridging. Okay, so we made a joke about that at the start of the QUACKCAST. All right, so this is a very specific kind of example of something that's a bit more old-fashioned. So one of the kind of ways they would create drama or tension in a story is by having the character's significant other, the female character's significant other, suffering some kind of tragic death. Okay. And that would have a bit of the pathos and the drama and that kind of stuff for the male character. So which means the female the female in that relationship is disposable. It was okay to use her, to kill this character off, to create the drama for the male character. And the example is the male, the Green Lantern character and his, wife, girlfriend, whatever, ending up in a fridge. Yeah. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong because I haven't actually read that comic where that happened, and this is used as a classical example of, you know, a disposable female
I
character.
had no idea that existed until hearing about it.
But it's been used subsequently, you know, and I think the main problem is that it's usually almost always a female character that it suffers that kind of, you know, horrible death to give the male character that kind of pathos and, you know, dramatic tension. And that's a problem. And you might say, oh, well, why don't we just have more male characters suffering, that kind of thing? But I don't know, is it like, should we really do that generally anyway? That seems a very cheap kind of pathetic kind of thing to do. But yeah, anyway.
I don't know, there is something...
Yeah. Oh, go on, sorry. You.
There is something... There's something clumsy and strange about the way this stuff is being handled, I guess. And I guess I'm talking about big movie studios and big productions and high-profile products of fiction, I guess I'll say, where it's kind of like forcing something that would probably happen kind of naturally anyway. I feel like I'm not even a celebrity. I have nothing to lose, and I'm already like, I feel weird talking about it. But you gonna get me fired for my dishwashing job? Get out of here. But there's something about forcing this kind of change and being ham-fisted. I mean, to me, that's what's causing the backlash. I see a lot of the backlash and people backlashing, you know, painted as sexist, racist, you know, homophobic, transphobic. It really, I mean, there's something toxic going on, and it's not toxic sexist and racist and homophobes. There are those people, but what do I know? But I think that's a small group of people being painted as a very large group of people. People who are not liking some of the stuff that's going on are not necessarily racist, any phobic.
That's
I would think that as the culture changes... Sorry, man, I'll just finish up and then...
No, go on.
But I just don't want to lose it. As the culture changes, I would imagine that things that are outdated and don't fit anymore are just going to fall away. Nobody's going to look at it.
Yeah.
No one's going to want it. But there's something about, I'll say it, rich people, celebrities, corporations trying to force a change that is coming anyway, probably. But they're doing it in a way that is so disingenuous at times, that it infuriates a lot of people who are just normal people.
Yeah. Okay, well, this is interesting. Well, does it infuriate them because they're stuck in their ways and the older artists? You know, I'm not saying like they're all homophobes or whatever, but it's the attitudes you grew up with sometimes are very hard to let go of, because these
they're in your bones. I agree with that for sure.
These formed the way you think. You grew up with them. That's how things were. And for someone to come and say you're bad and you're wrong and you're a homophobe for just the normal things you think that you grew up with, that seems sort of I don't know, insulting and hard to deal with.
Totally. I mean, people come, like, culture changing is one thing. It always does. Although I think I said on Patreon, like, it's changing faster now because of the technological world we live in, I guess, than it used to. It's changing really quickly. That's going to cause resistance. Like, I have an instinctive resistance to certain things because of what you just said, you know, growing up that way. And it gets like what you have experienced in especially in your youth, probably makes a huge impression on you, and is kind of like part of who you are. I think I think people would be more okay with that change if they weren't being called sexist and racist if you don't go see this movie, or if you're not good with this movie or this book, or, you know, being told what you can like and what you can't.
And insulting someone,
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
to try and change their attitude is not a good way to do it, because that's just going to promote resistance.
It's like, why do that? You know, that, I guess that's kind of my point. Like, things are going to change anyway, and the things that are not reflected in modern people are going to fall away. Just like nobody's going to care about them. You know?
In my experience,
so it's a strange approach.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like people naturally fall into that.
I could be wrong.
The way to change people's attitudes.
Sorry, man. Could you say that again? I'm sorry.
I don't know what I said.
Oh, okay.
Well, the way to change people's attitudes is not to insult them out of it. It is to make them identify with it and understand it in a way that fits. It's logical. This is the way to do it. So, you know, get them to feel the problem that a gay person has or a transgender person has. You know, get them to understand that, oh wow, okay, wouldn't it be horrible to have your way of life so criticized and demonized that you feel that you don't fit into culture anywhere? You know, isn't that just a horrible, horrible thing to have that done to you as a person? Yeah. If you had this, like, you couldn't, like, even your choice of going to the toilet is seen as being some kind of society destroying thing. And I think that's the way to get people to understand it, by helping them walk in the shoes of these people who they have an issue with. This is how we got attitudes to change for racial issues. Like growing up in the 70s, well, even before that, like the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, we had so many shows and movies and stuff like this that tried to put people in the shoes of a black person, or, you know, an Asian person or whatever, to get them to understand that, hang on, there is a cultural experience that, you know, you as a white person, whatever, just don't experience. And, you know, there are other ways of looking at it. These kind of people actually suffer this, you know, and like, they're not a lesser people. They're just same level as you. And you've got to understand that, you know, certain people have a completely different experience of normal life just based on their cultural or racial background, their skin color. And we've slowly, you and I grew up with media that helped us change our attitudes to that. We've slowly changed it, and things are still changing. Like, we've just got to understand that, you know, for women and for transgender, homosexual people, whatever, there's still attitudes. I mean, I've known, like there's an issue even now. Like we've got gay people have much more acceptance now, but even many gay people don't accept bisexual people. They don't accept polyamorous people, and which is strange. There's not like something that is what has the same wide acceptance, and you think, right? You know, how it's the same problem.
I wholeheartedly agree with that mission and with that goal.
Yeah, it's just,
how it's done is another question. Yeah.
Well, it's the same problem with, say, we mentioned like the TERFs, you know, the radical feminists who have had to struggle for like many decades against, you know, a society that was a bit more patriarchal, it was a bit more old-fashioned, and you know, these women have had to like fight in order to get the representation, in order to move forward. And now they are doing the same thing as what those men did who were so old-fashioned. Same thing to transgender people. And I think that's why there's such a huge reaction against them, is because, you know, it's almost hypocritical. It's like, can't you understand that all that stuff you went through to try and move forward, you're doing that to someone else. That's why it is so awful. Because you should be able to understand their predicament. Because you had to go through it yourself.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, that's the problem. Anyway, that was an interesting point you made about, well, that we both made about the growing up with certain ideas, and that is why there is that resistance, because these are ideas that we didn't just pick up because we felt like it. These ideas formed us. There's older ideas about, you know, like where people fit because of gender, what gender is, you know, binary gender. This was just the default. We understood when we were growing up, and it's very hard to change those attitudes, isn't it? But how do we change that?
I guess I think people are changeable.
They are, but that's why there is that resistance.
Very much so. I think people are, even though you might feel like some inner resistance to things changing, I think people, by and large, are ready to learn new things, ready to be inspired, ready to have insight.
Of course.
It's like, how do you do it? You know, and you touched on this already, but it's like, do you berate people in your press releases? And that's what they're doing, you know.
Yeah. Well,
it's like, do you take over existing properties? And I don't want to get on this rant because it will never end. But and destroy that existing property in order to sort of like, you know, beat the drum for what you believe in. If your intentions are good, I don't know if they are.
Yeah, well, that's not a good way of doing it.
It's not the way they do it, and that's the way they're doing it. You know, you make great stuff that like shows in your fiction the message you want to get across.
So, like an example of that is like changing the gender of a known superhero in order to, like, you know, fit in with changing attitudes better, or to not really that, but to increase representation for, I don't know, women within these, you know, superhero things. So we change the gender of a character, and that has been seen as a good tactic by some, and a bit of a problematic way of doing it to others. And there's positives and negatives on both sides, but I think the better way to do this with different characters of different race and characters of different you know, religion or culture or sexuality is to create new characters and to build them and to bring them forward. That seems to be the way. Traditionally, that was done. That has always been done, but it's usually with throwaway characters who do not get the promotion, or they give them lip service and they're this great new character, blah blah blah. Look, this new character, and then they fade away and then they're ignored. But I think now what is slowly starting to happen is we are creating these new characters and giving them the air they need to, you know, to propagate, giving them the space they need and promoting them and bringing them forward, rather than the cheap and easy way of, you know, just doing a gender switch, which is usually temporary and causes a lot more issues than it should. So there's that. But one thing I really wanted to talk about was, say, you know, like what you mentioned with the criticizing people. because of, their attitudes to things, and then just using the ad hominem attacks, sexist, racist, whatever. A good example of this was the marketing for Ghostbusters, the reboot version, wasn't it?
Right.
That's okay.
Yes, for sure.
So we had this Ghostbusters. I don't know what it's called. Ghostbusters 2016. That's what they call it now. So this was they were going to do a third version of the Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters 3. They decided, no, let's take it in a new direction. Let's have all female actors and we'll do a reboot. And they made a big thing about this and said, yeah, we need to increase representation for women. And that's that's a laudable sort of objective. Okay. The problem that happened then was promotion for the film. It was not promotion. It was, okay, a lot of people, basically misogynist people or, reactionary people went on the IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes or whatever and started preemptively making criticisms of the film based on the fact that they were females. And there were basically a lot of full-on sexist sort of attacks. So that's how it started. And this is from my understanding. Reaction against that from the filmmakers and from the actors and the promoters of the film was basically, you're only criticizing us because you're sexist man babies or something like this. All right, so it's understandable because there were a hell of a lot of sexist, misogynist people creating attacks against the film. Oh, of course there were some horrible things said about the actors. But this is only a part of it, so I'm moving on. All right, when the film itself came out, the film was pretty bad. Okay? And then there was a lot of criticism, aimed at the film, just talking about how bad it was. But the actors and the film creators were still using, their ad hominem attack against the critics of the film, saying, oh, you're sexist, racist, whatever, whereas that didn't apply. The film was bad and they should have really addressed that fact, or owned the criticism and said, yeah, we made mistakes. But instead of doing that, they just said, yeah, you only hate it because you're man babies or misogynist. So There are the two sides to it. A lot of people will, unfortunately, and this is what I hate, will only take one side or the other and say, there was never any misogyny, it was just a bad film, you're idiots and you shouldn't have done this. And other people will say, it was all misogynist and that's the end of it and this was a good film. Well, no, both things are true. There were misogynists and it was a bad film. Okay? We have to own up to those two things. You have to be able to criticize a film. Yeah,
I can accept that. Here's my issue with it. The story, as I understand it, is the preview came out. Well, yeah, there was the announcement that it was not going to be a Ghostbusters 3 with the original cast. It was going to be an all-female Ghostbusters. I don't know what the reaction to that was in big picture. Personally, I thought that was a great idea. I was really into that idea. I thought that was really cool. Okay, that'll be different. That'll be neat. The preview comes out, and it's the most disliked preview in YouTube history in terms of, thumbs down.
Oh, really?
Breaker. Yeah. So, a lot of negative comments on the video. I did look at, I wasn't too obsessed with this, but I looked at a breakdown of the comments, of the views and thumbs comments. Far more, by orders of magnitude, far more thumbs down than comments. Only a tiny percentage of people commented on the video, as opposed to those who thumbs up or thumbs down. So you have a much smaller group of people. I guess they filtered out some key words and everything to narrow down to quote unquote, like not quote unquote, but certain words that could be identified as sexist or like a gender-based criticism or a sexist, misogynist criticism. Okay. Very tiny percentage. All interesting stuff. I remember seeing the preview, and I love Ghostbusters when I was a kid. So I saw the preview, and it looked so bad. I was like talking to my brother about it. Like I literally called him. Oh my god, have you seen that Ghostbusters preview? This looks horrendous. Like the jokes are stupid and terrible and like reworked. Like the jokes that were huge, like famous memes almost from the 90s. Like Tommy Boy jokes.
Yeah.
Like you literally ripped off That's Gonna Leave a Mark from Tommy Boy. It's like, really? It looks so stupid and so bad. And there was no gender thing. And apparently, by and large, the comments were not gender focused. They were like, this looks terrible. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, well.
Here's my issue.
Yeah.
They allegedly and apparently were deleting legit criticisms and amplifying the sexist criticisms.
Yeah.
To therefore make the movie critic proof by saying that the people who are slamming this movie are all sexist. It's like if there's toxic misogynists, they can't tolerate the fact that women are Ghostbusters. How dare you do that to the little girls who might want to be scientists someday? How dare you? It's that kind of thing. That's where it's like manipulation and being so disingenuous, and then you have a backlash, of course, and the movie didn't do well and all that kind of stuff. And they said, "Oh, but we obviously have a toxic culture, not just pockets of misogyny or attitudes that are kind of backwards." Of course, that's out there. Like I'm not going to deny that exists, but it's like it's not the way it's being painted by companies who have a financial interest in their movie doing well, no matter how bad it is.
Well, they did manipulate things. They tried to manipulate the story around, the criticism for the film as part of marketing, which is, that's a bad thing to do for many, many reasons. But, I mean, we can't pretend that there is not that misogyny in there, but the film itself was bad for other reasons, like you said.
And is that misogyny amplified?
No. Towards
an end? I think it is.
Oh,
I
right.
think that's where we disagree.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, well, they want to, like you're saying, we have a toxic kind of, what was the toxic thing again? That was, a
toxic culture.
A toxic culture.
A misogynist toxic culture, they say.
So, the film...
do we really? You've never seen Walking Dead? We were talking about it for a second before we started recording. There are amazing female characters on that show.
Well, there have always been amazing female characters in
tough ones,
film,
and they're a good portion of the main cast. Michonne, incredible, awesome character. Carol, one of the best character arcs in TV history. This is a different subject, and I don't know the answer, but why are they not held up as these feminist icons? Because they're not.
No,
I never see them mentioned anywhere. It's Captain Marvel. It's crap. I don't know I don't know what that is, but nobody hates Michonne and Carol on The Walking Dead.
That's a good
point.
Not a peep. Although
it's very strange.
It's problematic, Michonne. I don't know how she's depicted in the movie, but I remember in the comics there was a rape arc for that character, which is again that's a.
Oh really?
Yeah, there's another problem there. Let's see. Oh, go on, sorry.
No.
Oh, well,
I never read the comic. But,
Okay, Ghostbusters. So we're hinting at, hot tummy boy or whatever. Okay, so I actually went and watched the film to see what the fuss was about, which I like to do eventually with this kind of things. So I watched the whole thing, beginning to end. And my take on it was that I love all those actors, those female actors. They're fantastic. The cast was great. No issues with the cast. Love all of them. Not only in their acting in the film was good, but their what they normally do. All their other kind of stuff they do. I love it. But okay, the film was unfocused. So it's incredibly child focused, the film. It's very, very childish. The humor is very aimed at little kids. Already there's a problem there because we've got a film aimed at little kids with some extremely adult concepts in it. So we have
there's some filthy jokes in it.
Yeah. It's so okay, so the plot-wise, it's aimed at kids. Visuals, very, very child-focused, big characters, big kind of humor, fart jokes, poo jokes, this kind of thing. A lot of toilet humor. So very much aimed at little kids. Whereas the big aspect to the other aspect of the humor is very adult, very, very sexual kind of stuff. So you've got that kind of frisson that does not fit. It never fits. And again, Ghostbusters. Okay, if you watch Ghostbusters 1, Ghostbusters 2, these original films, the franchise is not childish. Those films were never aimed at kids. Those films were aimed at an young adult audience who had grown up with these actors from Saturday Night Live. Okay, so these were meant to be very grown-up things. And you might think, oh, but Ghostbusters, like ghosts and fantasy, that's kids. No, bullshit. Going back into the 80s, all films were films for adults always had this fantasy element. Not always, but a lot of them did. They had a fantasy element. The fact that it became something that we aimed at kids, through the Ghostbusters cartoon or marketing or whatever, this was later. Okay, so this franchise is a young adult thing, or medium adult, like 18 to 40, whatever. Okay, so
and then the logo, the cartoon logo, and some of the material probably it appealed to younger kids, but almost accidentally, maybe.
It is. So when you're doing a reboot of that, already that's a problem. So this latest film is aimed at tiny little kids, and it's aiming like an adult thing at little kids, and you're including sex jokes and stuff like that. So there's a huge problem. As an adult watching this thing, you're thinking, shit, we've got this childish, terrible kind of childish humor, and then we've got this sex humor. Who is this for? Who the hell is this for? This is not for little kids. And then the effects and everything in the film, this is made in 2016 something. I can't remember when it was made, but it's quite recent. The effects, these digital effects, are something that you would have in a Disney ride from the early 2000s. This is simple, terrible CGI in here that I could have come up with I did. I studied CGI. I studied 3D animation. I could have come up with this 20 years ago. This is bad effects in this modern film. How can you have this? So there's all these kind of aspects of this stuff, like the props and the costumes. One of the actors from Saturday Night Live, I can't remember her name, but she plays the Egon kind of character. She's wearing these...
Kate McKinnon.
That's it, Kate McKinnon. She's wearing these glasses. She changes glasses every 5 seconds. The stuff that was advertised on Facebook and eBay, these people who sell funny glasses, that's the level of the props. They've just bought a bunch of Alibaba bloody cheap glasses for this character, and like it was so cheap and was so crappy. And yeah, you got this friction between like adult humor and childish humor. You've made it, aimed at little kids, but it's not really a kids thing. And these are all actors who are fantastic at adult humor. Adult women.
Great cast, actually.
Yeah. And you're forcing them into this kind of role. It's weird, and that's why it doesn't work. Like the weapons as well.
And then they, in the marketing, they get online and start berating the existing fan base.
Yeah.
Just to complete the disaster.
Well,
anyway, the weapons.
Well, remember the weapons in the original one. So it's not really a Okay, so they didn't start off marketing it towards children, right? So the proton beams, the little ghost traps and all that kind of stuff were just part of the story. So this latest film, they've obviously thought, how can we market this to so it's like they've already thought of it in a kind of mercenary, cynical way, and they've given each of the characters different weapons. Like this one has like a nunchuck kind of thing. I don't know, like throwing stars or whatever, and each of them have a different weapon to tackle the ghosts with. And it was just so transparently like marketed. And that again was something that just did not sit right. It didn't fit right. Sure, if this was like a kid's cartoon, but this is like like a proper film, and you're doing it in this way, and you're like bastardizing the Ghostbusters theme by doing that. Anyway, look,
right.
I'm doing a very poor kind of job of critiquing this thing, but I wanted to enjoy this film, and it had so many aspects that made me not enjoy it. But I did find something, one of the biggest parts was that actor, the Thor actor, I can't remember his name, the blonde Australian guy. So he's playing the himbo, he's
Paul Hogan.
So he's playing this dumb receptionist character. Alright. But the dumbness of the character was childlike. It was based on what a 5-year-old would consider stupid. It was too far. So it wasn't funny. This isn't like a male version of a female bimbo. This is a 5-year-old's version of a male bimbo character. He has no brain, and that was just stupid. Like, the only thing really funny about that is that they thought it would be funny. You laugh at the moronicness of the writers for creating this character. He did have a very funny line at the end, but that was really when he was being, I think that was the actor improvising and not being so, badly written. But yeah, there was so many aspects to the film like that. It was just, why did you think this would be funny? Why did you think this would work? Are you an idiot?
Right.
Anyway,
Yeah. I like that you actually went and saw it, because there was so much talk about this movie, and I think like so few of the commentators didn't even see it. I didn't see it.
Well, good points.
It's cool that you actually went and saw it and then talked about it.
Well, yeah, there's good points to the film, because it's not all terrible. Like, all the actors, they did a great job. The actors were fine. No criticism about that. Katie McKinnon and all the rest. Fantastic. And I'm disappointed that they got given those roles to do. I'm disappointed that the film treated them so badly. They deserve better, because they are amazing. And they still, even though they got lumped with crap, they still did their jobs well. So no criticism against any of them. It's the writing of the film that's the bad part, not their performances within it. And all the other, the male performance, everyone else did well with what they had. Okay? It's only the writing that is a problem in that film. So anyway, it turned into a criticism of Ghostbusters. So yeah.
That's good. And maybe, I hear there was a lot of improv on it, so it might be a directing problem, editing problem.
Well,
I'm the same as you. Like, I almost never do I really blame an actor.
yeah.
Like, sometimes you see a bad actor, but normally it's like they don't really have control over what's written, and definitely no control over how it's edited and put together. They're usually doing what they can, and they really can't help final product much.
These are actors who have proven themselves to be good as well. Yeah. Exactly. So objectively, you can look at their body of work and go, okay, all right. These people know what they're doing. They're fantastic. And you can judge for yourself what is improvised. Often it's easy to tell. And the stuff that's improvised is well done. It's just stuff, the things the characters say which are not what these actors would normally say. And you can say, okay, this is the lines that are written for them. As opposed to stuff they've come up with themselves. And that is what's poor. Whereas, yeah. And, that ties into the problem of these are actors who do more adult work with adult humor. And that's what they specialize in. That's what they're fantastic at. And that is where they're along the lines of what they're improvising. And it doesn't fit in with this kids' film feel that obviously whoever created the film wanted it to have. Mm-hmm. And, when a film is meant for kids, it doesn't work. When, it's so obviously meant for adults. You have those two kind of elements in there. Anyway, should we get okay? So
is that our hour?
Yeah, pretty much. But I want to tie it back to the changing attitudes thing. Okay, so.
Oh yeah, right.
All right, so in that was an example of a film that was like people tried to apologize for it or rationalize away, saying, yeah, well, it's a good film, but you can't accept the fact that times are changing, and this is an example of the way that is happening. Well, no, I don't think it was. Like you said, the positive thing was like changing the gender. That was not a bad part of the film. That could have worked if it was just better written.
Of course.
Okay? Yeah. And that's the way it goes. But for other aspects of things, I think we do have to be aware that attitudes are changing, and it's if we're feeling ourselves having to fight against that, maybe we should, think about why we have those reactions, and is it valid for us to fight against stuff? Like, you brought up Captain Marvel. Okay, so a lot of people hated that film because that was maybe promoted more than it should have been as this is a positive thing for a female superhero, blah, 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 blah. And really, if we're being realistic about it, it's just another Marvel film. It's just another one in the whole lot of the Marvel stuff. And perhaps they shouldn't have gone so hard on the, promoting it based on the female actor kind of thing. Well, a female superhero kind of thing. And because it's really not that progressive, it's really not that a jump in, a huge jump. It is just progressive as everything else is. And there were some missteps made, I think. like we were saying before, you can't berate your audience or criticize them into loving something. That's
right. Exactly. I mean, look, and around that time, Wonder Woman comes out. Everybody loves it.
Exactly.
It's like when things just don't ring true, you know. It's like the cynical use of like culture and like holding it, like putting on this mask of like being progressive or trying to do the right thing or like, you know, help disadvantaged groups of people. It's being used cynically. That's my pet peeve.
And
I guess.
I will say, unlike Ghostbusters, Captain Marvel is a workman-like film. It was a decent film. It wasn't a fantastic film from my perspective. Maybe some people love it, but it fits in with all those other Marvel films, and it's well done. It was an enjoyable film. So there's no that wasn't a badly written thing.
I didn't really care about it either way, personally. I mean, I did have, in terms of like the series, in terms like as a comic book fan, as a, you know, sort of franchise fan, I guess. I was like, what, like shoehorning in an all-powerful character right before the end felt a little like, it's like on a story level, it seemed kind of weird.
Oh yeah.
Like, why are you doing that? Like, she's so powerful. You know, it's gonna like, isn't it gonna screw things up? And I don't think it did. Really, she didn't come in like at the last minute and like kill everyone and win the day.
They did manage
like,
it.
oh,
right.
like that's all they needed. You know, I thought the conclusion of the whole Marvel thing was good, but that was my thing. It's like, oh, it's like suddenly you introduce Superman. It's not a gender thing at all. It's a power level thing. It's like, oh, like suddenly this character can do anything. So like, oh, okay, well, I guess we'll be fine.
Yeah,
Fix all the drama.
They did manage it all right. I mean, and it comes from the comics, you know. That was all in the comics before it was in the film. It wasn't just like they decided on it. It was in the comic. Yeah.
Here's another point. I don't know how close we are to the end here, but the cynical manipulation is one thing on one level. On another level, it's approaching stuff like this in a unifying way versus a divisive way.
Yeah.
It's like, what is serving humanity better, you know? And not just, you know, trying to make as much money as you can off the movie that you crapped out.
That you crapped out.
It's like serving society is unifying in concept. Like that's why, and this is going way off track to the topic of this podcast, but you know, people who really start to have enough notoriety and are known enough, and they're in a position to try unifying all of us normal level people. I'm talking normal people versus the super rich and the controlling class. Those are the people who get killed.
Yeah.
It's the unifying thing that's a good thing. It's the divisive thing, which I see a lot, you know, in these more cynical players.
True.
That causes a backlash, you know.
I was going to say, now I've got my train of thought. I'm really tired, people. It's 2 a.m. in the morning here, and my brain's fucked. But I was going to say that in the old days, what you would have done when people are seeming to criticize something based on factors that they, are not really part of the thing, like, okay, so we're doing Ghostbusters or we're doing Captain Marvel, and there's certain people criticizing based on the fact that she's a woman, or you feel that that's what's behind them. Okay, so in the old days, what you would do is if someone was like had those kind of motivations, you just ignore it. Like, so it's not good just to ignore bad stuff, but it's not good to like go head on and use that as your main point of promotion by, attacking critics based on what they think about something. That was always a tactic you would take if something was like failing or something was bad in its own right. You'd go on the attack with your critics. That was always something that would happen to like a movie that was like bombing, or something like a Broadway play that only showed like 2 nights, because the people who were promoting it had no other recourse but to they felt they had no other recourse but to go against to attack their critics head on. So the correct way of promoting something is really never to go on the attack. You should always like accentuate the positive.
Yeah. I mean, it might have been valid at one time. I remember people like Stephen King commenting later, or sort of middling in his career, that like, you know, my stuff is not for critics. I guess it's for regular people, because critics were really tough on him. However, to add on to what you're saying, like these days, everybody's a critic, right? We have like, you know, YouTube, just normal, like just regular people are critics and they can post their thoughts. So attacking your critics is now attacking your audience, potential audience. So, you know, why playing with fire there, people?
Yeah. We'll say a great film like Moana, you know, great Pixar film. So we've got depicting a culture that's not white culture. So you've got Polynesian people in that film from, I think, Tahiti or whatever. So you've got some sort of Pacific Islanders in that film. Fantastic. Now, if Pixar had followed that mold, and, you know, maybe that film would have, I'm sure among the critics, there would be some racists who would criticize it. You know, they would prefer the characters to be white. I'm being hypothetical here. I'm not talking about any specific person. I'm just imagining if there were these mythical, you know, racist white supremacists or whatever, okay? So they would not like the film because it's got like a female hero and they're not white. So maybe they would base their criticisms on that fact. And I'm sure those did exist, okay? Because we have terrible people like that in our society, I'm afraid. But, okay, so Pixar didn't make a big thing of, like, going on, like, a pre-attack against that kind of thing, assuming that would exist. They didn't go, you know, or anyone who hates this film is a misogynist or a racist. There was none of that. They just talked about how great the film was, how great that culture is, how great it is to depict that culture. And that's the way you do the kind of thing. You don't have to go on some kind of pre-attack against your presumed haters or, you know, critics or horrible people. You don't even give those people any oxygen at all. You just, because they're not worth it. It's not worth creating like a big drama about those people who would hate stuff based on that. You just talk about how great the thing is, and all the people will start to love it, and then those kind of people will look like idiots anyway. So, you know, if the thing can stand for itself, then let it stand for itself, and bring people along with you. Don't, you know, shoot them in the head and say, you know, you're not worth being brought along with us. That's what we should do. I don't know.
There you go.
Maybe I'm sounding like an old fuddy-duddy. Oh, well, that's been this QUACKCAST. It's good we've had a chance to sort of to talk about it. Okay. All right.
Oh, these changing times. Yes.
Times, they are changing. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you, folks. Drunkduck Awards in progress as we speak.
The awards. Go and check them out.
Check out that comic.
That's the feature.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Sweet. Bye-bye.